Just before you go, on the international stage, what do you make of this Wagner mercenary group aiding and abetting the Putin efforts in Ukraine? This mob have been leading the assault for the East Ukrainian city of Bakhmut, and the leader of this mercenary group, this Prigozhin, has admitted that 10,000 that he'd recruited had been killed. An additional 10,000 regular servicemen from his forces, these are Russians, had been perished. And he described the war in Ukraine as catastrophic, and he said that could set off a violent revolution in Russia. How do you see this?
Well, he's an unusual character. I mean, the Wagner Group's been involved and is still involved in parts of Africa and the developing world as well. But he has played a front and centre role in Russia's campaign to retake or to occupy Bakhmut. You're right. He's done this. He's largely gotten ex-convicts and criminals out of jail. They've had their jail sentences reduced. They've been waved out of the jail cells and sent to the front lines of Ukraine. And he's been, I think, pretty cavalier in how he's been prepared to spend that manpower because it's come to him cheaply. He doesn't really need to answer to anyone. But I think his level of disquiet over the war, I mean, he's careful that he tries to direct it towards Russia's military leadership and not lay it at the feet of Putin personally. But I think it does reflect that there is a lot of internal tension within Russia and disagreement within Russia about the wisdom of Russia's war in Ukraine, the conduct of it, whether they're fighting it properly or not, whether Putin is the right person to lead it. And I think that's something we need to try and find a way to exploit and lean into, because ultimately, look, Russian wars tend to either end in victory abroad or revolution at home, one or the other. And we don't want to see them have a victory in Ukraine. We prefer to see them have a revolution at home, I think.
Well, that's exactly what he said. I'll just edit it because he made this point. He said everything might end, as in 1917, with a revolution, when first the soldiers rise up and then their loved ones. And he criticised people like the Russian defence minister for protecting their relatives from serving in Ukraine. Interesting language. He said, the children of the elite smear themselves with creams and show off on the internet, while ordinary people's children come home in coffins torn to pieces. Just one question then. From your understanding of this, and you've explained that very clearly and simply, how secure do you think the Putin leadership is?
Well, I think it's much less secure than it was, 12 to 18 months ago. He has, though, I mean, he reshuffles his military leadership constantly. He reshuffles his intelligence leadership constantly. He does what a lot of autocrats do, which is make sure that no rival centres of power can readily emerge or coalesce around them. So it's hard to, from what we know of the Russian political system from outside, hard to figure out who the candidate would be who would replace him, and he does his best to destabilise that opposition. But it's clear that his hold on the leadership is less secure than it has been, I think, any time in the past decade.
Yeah. Well, I thought that just that Wagner group made this point, or the leader there said that the Kremlin goal of demilitarising Ukraine had failed, that the attack on Ukraine had really militarised Ukraine, because they started with 500 tanks, now they've got 5,000. They started with 20,000 soldiers, now they've got 400,000. So one wonders where this is all going to head. Dave, it's good to talk to you. Thank you for your scholarship. Thank you for your interest, and we certainly wish you well, and we'll talk again.
Thanks so much for your time, Alan.
Not at all. That's Dave Sharma, the former Liberal member of the federal parliament of the seat of Wentworth. Politics in this country can't afford to have people like this bloke outside the parliament.